Well, I couldn't
I've clicked the
think of
button.
Have you?
Yeah. I
I,
have.
you were like, you should do a thumbnail like to the previous ones. Like, well, this one appears to be the globe through a magnifying glass. I think I could just put something fun up. I like fireworks. I'm putting fireworks up.
Boom.
Yeah.
Hello and good evening, everybody.
Hello, everybody. I'm just gonna see. Oh, yep,
I'm not live on my stream yet.
yeah. We are now live.
Yeah.
We were just
Awesome.
discussing why I picked the fireworks thumbnail, and the answer is, hi,
Because.
everybody. How is everyone?
Yes.
Hello, Seaview Hotel. How have you been? I haven't seen you, and I haven't seen you. I hope you can see the sea, Des.
So you're offshore at the moment, I presume? Ah, dear.
Hello, Roderick. How are you today?
Hey, we said that in unison. Nice.
Did
Seem to be slouching.
Mikey, how have you been this week?
I've been all over the place because the week has just started, and that's what my week is like.
That
But
seems fair.
good news in the UK, the children are going back to school this week. Which means that the house is going to be quiet for a substantial part of the day, which is pretty awesome as far as I'm concerned.
I do feel for all of those parents and guardians who haven't had to do education for long periods of time, suddenly having to do homeschooling for months without any kind of guidance. Because that's no joke. Like, that's a master's degree.
Well, I remember I certainly was talking to you about this, and I don't know whether I mentioned it on stream, but my youngest was doing English, and he was doing split digraphs and trigraphs, and I was like, yeah, what? Obviously, I learnt them, but I never learnt them by their name, and I was like, wow, okay, I've learnt something.
I mean, that's the other thing is a lot of how subjects, and this is completely off topic, a lot of how subjects are taught and understood and presented to children changes every few years. Like when I was at school, nobody used those math blocks.
Yes, I know the ones you're on.
And now
I've got
they're
some.
ubiquitous, right? Everyone uses them because they're a really good way of understanding, apart from anything else, units and in base 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you can actually physically build a model of it in your head and understand how mathematics work. But no one ever used them when I was. So when I first started doing my master's degree and I had to do a maths for teachers course, I just thought they were toys.
Yeah, Roderick, I had no idea what I was trying to teach. It was like, label the split digraphs in this sentence. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to Google that, William. Please hold.
I would have. It reminds me of when I was teaching in New Jersey and one of the maths professors had left a maths test in the room.
Yeah.
Like an unfilled out one, an empty one. And I was in no way able to do it, so I did it and handed it to him to grade. And it had things like claim X. So I drew a little stick figure holding a flag and the bubble saying, it's mine.
Which I think should get extra credit.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice. We were just chatting before the stream about how or what type of games you find fun, and what is it about a game
I actually want to frame that a little differently.
Yeah.
Because this is something I whenever we're talking about game design, I'm very careful of the word fun for two reasons. One, it's a whitewash word. Right? It's really hard to pin down, and it's not actually useful. So if we're making a demo and someone says, could you try and make it 10% more fun? It's utterly meaningless.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, does it?
And two, not every game you like is fun. A game doesn't have to be fun to be engaging, to be worth playing. This War of Mine, have you ever played that? It's like a side-scrolling, procedurally generated survive in a war-torn city where you don't have any food and you have to make decisions on who's going to live and die. There is nothing fun about that, but it's an amazing game.
Challenging, that's another thing, isn't it? If there's an ongoing challenge, if you're the sort of person that really engages in something difficult, like a lot of, I think I enjoy that as part of a lot of survival games to a point. So I started playing Ark again recently, and I was very frustrated. It was very funny for about the first half an hour because I died multiple times. And I would respawn, and one time I respawned next to this giant alligator-looking creature, and then I ran screaming like the proverbial schoolgirl across the map. Ah!
Yeah,
And I managed to find the base, and I brought the crocodile with me, which no one was best pleased with. I brought a
that's fair.
friend.
But it's one of those games. Like I have, how much time do I have invested in Ark? I can actually look this up. I have a lot of time in Ark over the years.
I'm a big fan of things that like Factorio and Satisfactory, where
I
you
have over 1,300 hours in Ark.
wow, that is a good chunk of time.
Um,
That is a good chunk of time.
but I
Yeah,
can see what you mean because I enjoy Ark, although the recent time I've been playing, the map was unfair or unkind to me, and that was more
yeah,
frustrating than anything else. Like I understand how to play the game, but if you can't get started, you're just going to die a lot. Um,
yeah.
it's but it's interesting. Games that you're not sure if you like or not. I think that's kind of a key factor for me.
Well, it's. Can you remember about 18 months ago we had a very interesting moment where you showed me this card game, and you said to me, "Would you like to play this card?" I don't know whether you call it a collecting game or whatever, but I can't remember.
Chaos,
Chaos, yes,
Chaos
and
Reborn. Yeah,
Chaos Reborn, and I thought at the time no, and then I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go, and I really enjoyed it,
mm.
but I wouldn't have enjoyed the idea of playing it. So if you had asked me, would you like to play it and describe the game, I'd have gone, nah, I'll play CS:GO or something.
I was watching a YouTuber this week who was playing a game called Loop Heroes.
Loop
And Loop Heroes has just
Heroes.
been released. It's got very positive reviews, but there's a couple of weird things about it. Like if I tell you the build up for this game, I guarantee, well, I almost guarantee your impulse could be, I don't want to play this. First
Mm-hmm.
off, very retro early 90s aesthetic. Fine.
Yeah.
Secondly, the world is being devoured. The sky is falling. Blackness is eating it. Everyone has forgotten the world. Everyone has forgotten there used to be a sky. You're the only one who can remember. So you have to go around remembering the things. And the way you do that is you go round a path.
Right.
You don't control the character.
Oh, interesting. You're on
The
rails
decision
then.
you make, yeah, the decision you make is when to run away, if you can run away.
Yeah.
When you stop at the camp, are you just going to stop there? Or are you going to keep going? And where to place things. When you defeat enemies, you get cards and you can place them on the map. Place them in certain patterns and you'll generate more enemies and treasure.
You know what that reminds me of, and I don't know if it's analogous to this, is when you have a quick time event in a game, where, especially on consoles, where you've got to mash a certain button at a certain time in order to get through. And I'm like, well, I'd rather just watch the cutscene. Because there's.
Well, it's interesting because what it reminded me of is a board game. Because I'm not actually changing the battle, I'm changing the circumstances around the battle. I'm
Hmm.
putting armor on the dude when he's looting things, but I have no direct input on the battle. There is no decision as to which direction he's going to move in. He's going to come to these enemies,
That's an
right?
interesting one.
And
Yeah,
it's
it's.
weird because if you describe, you don't control the hero. It just sounds like one of those.
Are you just
Like,
playing Sims, where you tell them, you give them orders, yet they do with them in their own way?
but it's actually in its own right quite an involved game with a lot of strategy to it. It's
Yeah.
just not immediately apparent. You have to jump in and try it. And it's just like you're saying with that card game is if you hadn't actually gone into Chaos
Yeah.
Reborn,
I just
you
wouldn't
you
have.
would never have known that you'd
No,
enjoyed it.
not at all. It's. Yeah, I enjoy certain genres as well. So if you showed me a zombie game, I'd probably be up for playing it, just because it's that type of game. And in past me would have been like, oh, any first person shooter, I'll give it a go. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a bit more picky about those now. And 4X games and strategy games, which are they can be very long-winded games. So unless they've got some quick wins at the very beginning, I'm probably going to be bored. Or
I really love 4X games and I'm
hmm,
really bad at them, so I get very frustrated.
yeah,
Like my brain I'm okay at tactical decisions, but strategic long-term decisions.
Especially if you're new to the game and don't realise that actually that choice that you've made is going to have a completely different impact, where on your 50th playthrough you'd know about.
So things like, was it Endless Space and Endless Space 2? They have this interesting like combat mechanic that's essentially like a card game. Don't understand it, have never understood it, don't know how to do combat in that game, have no idea if I'm going to win or lose. So am I really playing the game at that point? Like, I'm just letting the game make decisions for me.
I think this would class as a 4X game. Years and years ago, Galactic Civilization 2. I really, really enjoyed that game. I had no idea what I was doing, but it would often degenerate into a strategy of turtling until you get a massive force, and if you survive that long, you go around with this massive force, and you just from planet to planet to planet, and you just conquer it. And after you've done that a couple of times, the game for me at that point was no longer fun because I was just redoing the same thing.
So let me turn this around a little bit, because it's very tempting to say I like survival games, right? I love Ark, as we've discussed. I've played some Conan, which has some problems, but sure. I've used to play a lot of Minecraft back when it was in beta, just after it released. But it's not the case that I like every survival game.
No. Yeah.
So I think there are certain mechanics you might enjoy and certain activities you might enjoy, but I like to frame it as what's the essential experience of a game, right? So when you first go into Minecraft and you hear that little tinkly music, right? The little piano, and you see this world literally spawning in front of you, and it's complete mystery what's out there. Like, you understand the basic rules once you've played it a few times, but what you're actually going to find is an absolute mystery. And you might get killed randomly, right? So you've got that sense of wonder and adventure. And then you get to a point where the game is completely safe because your base is strong, you have all the resources you need, and suddenly the game is housework.
Yeah, you get to a point, for the example of Minecraft, where there is no real AI. They pathfind to you, but they don't, like a creeper will stand outside a door, and it's like, dude, if you blew up right now, you would completely wreck my base, and I get swarmed by everything else that's currently around, which would be a much more tense game. And I know you can mod the game to actually do that sort of thing.
I mean, in Minecraft years ago, and I was playing a server with friends, when I realized that creepers don't do any damage if they explode underwater. And they can drown. So I just built a moat that was a series of waterfalls down to a drowning pool, where any resources that come out would just come out into a collecting box.
Yeah.
Suddenly, every single enemy, this is before Enderman, so there was no enemy that could realistically get through that wall. Every single enemy was worth waving at because they'd give you resources. At which point the game was just too easy. Interesting point from Daz. He's found himself shifting in the last year or so. He doesn't have time to invest in games that require serious time investment to understand, prepare, and organize. Shifting more to pick up and play for half an hour.
I think that might be the reason why I'm on the fence with something like Ark. Minecraft is actually simple enough that in half an hour you can make a decent amount of progress. You know,
there's a lot of complexity there after a while.
Yeah.
But it's not there unless you want it. Like, there's no reason to play with redstone unless you want to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that might be the position that I'm in at the moment, that when I'm playing a game that requires a lot of time investment, I might be a little bit scared to invest the time in it. Whereas I know, again, if I go back to Warzone or Apex Legends or CSGO, I can pick them up. I can even go with CSGO. Right, I just want a deathmatch. And
I mean, there's something to be said for those pick-up-and-play games, especially the ones that use those roguelike mechanics, where there's a lot of depth of strategy that you can learn through repeated play, but you're not going to have a bad time your first time playing if you don't know them. Things like Noita, or did you ever play Streets of Rogue? I know we tried to play Streets of Rogue, but we can get the internet working.
I don't think I did. I've got Noita now. It's a laugh.
Noita's great. I'm terrible at it, but it's really great.
Yeah.
Streets of Rogue is a really interesting game. It's procedure generated, top-down, very blocky, very silly, system-based game where you have a mission to do, and your character will have certain powers and certain side missions, and you just want to get down as deep as you can. But you want to play it for 10 minutes and just mess around, you can. You want to try and get really good at it, you can. Like, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, Roterick's made a good point there. some games you can easily get lost in.
Mm.
You know, you start playing, and if you manage to get into the flow, especially if you're mining for diamonds. I've done that for my kids. I've said, okay, I'm going to go off down into the
You did the little
mines.
grid thing.
Yeah, I ended up doing strip mining, and it's 2 hours later, and I've got a stack of diamonds, and I'm feeling quite proud. And I go back to the kids and go, "Here you go." They're all happy that they've all got diamonds. Or occasionally, if they've annoyed me, I come out of the mine with a diamond sword and full diamond armor and go, "No, I couldn't find any."
You see, I think that's one of the things I enjoy about games like Ark, and I do love Ark, is you've got this huge world and this very robust building system. It's not the best building system I've seen, but it's good.
Mm.
And you can build quite impressive structures, a good breeding system, a good taming system. If you want to go to a place and build a stronghold or a base or a farm or whatever it is and make it self-sufficient and make it good, and the golf and tame creatures is fine. I have the same problem with Ark as I do with Minecraft, which is the mid to late game is pointless. Once I've got to a point where I've got a Thylancoleo breeding program and I'm trying to breed them for rare colors, I have enough deadly creatures to take on pretty much anything.
The same could be said of something like a racing game. If the challenger level isn't there, and you're out in front by a whole lap, you're just not going to get it's not going to be a rewarding experience.
What I'm supposed to be doing is I'm supposed to be grinding up to get enough materials to summon the sub bosses to defeat them, to take on the boss, to beat the map.
Yeah,
and I have never once done that because I've no interest in doing any of those things.
Well, probably the same with me in Minecraft. I've never been to the end.
Yeah,
ever. I'm like, well, no, that's not the point of the game.
I went there once. It's like, yep, that's a dragon. Don't care. Bye.
Yeah. A dragon and some pillars or something.
That's what it looks like. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Seen it. But it's interesting because I wonder how much the designers assumed people would want to go there, or if they put it there for people who need an end goal. I have a friend called Matt who lives in Florida, and he and I played a lot of computer games. We haven't over the last couple of years because our schedules don't align anymore. But schedules, timetables don't align anymore. And I tried to get him into Ark. Me and a few of his friends. His friends love it. I love it. We get him into Ark, and all he could do is complain because he was having the worst time. He wasn't dying. He could build just fine.
Yeah.
But why am I doing any of these things? What's the point? What's the goal? It's like you go into the world, you have adventures, and you build a world. Why? Because it's fun. It's not fun. And that's the problem. His mindset is absolutely valid. It's just not suitable for that big open world game.
Yeah, I've come to realize that I gravitate more towards competitive games where there's a clear winner-loser structure than more open world games. But it's weird, but I can't really, and I don't really want to pigeonhole myself because I also like a zombie game where you're the sole survivor. There is no a challenge. I think I always want a overwhelming challenge.
I often do. I mean, I do like a good story, but I find a lot of those crafted single-player experiences quite disappointing because most studios can't afford to create a 400-hour single-player experience that's meaningful. And I mean, there's a lot of complaint of the latest Assassin's Creed where people are saying the first 10 hours are great and the next 40 hours are awful because it's the same as the first 10 hours.
I remember that I played the first Assassin's Creed. I've never played any of the others, but I do want to get the one that's based in, I think, Victorian London because the architecture and everything looks awesome. I just want to run around the world. But I remember...
Not played it, but I have heard that the accents are pretty bad.
Even better.
Yep.
Tally-ho! And I remember playing it, and there are zones that open up as you progress. And in the end, it became, as you were saying, a very repetitive... I completed one area, and I was like, oh, that's awesome, I can't wait for the next challenge. The next challenge was just more people to beat in a fight. And by the end of the game, because you could just button mash, I was playing it on my friend's PS3 at the time, you just run around seeing how many guards you could get, and then you just stop, and you would
I
will
don't know if
parry
they
them.
fixed this because I've only
Yeah.
played the first 3 Assassin's Creed games, but you don't even button mash, you press counter.
Mm. You parry and then you can attack, and it's an instant kill.
It
Parry
just
from.
and it's worse because if they shoot a crossbow or a gun at you, somehow you counter that. So you just
Of
surround yourself by
course.
50 guards and kill them all in one go rather than waste time sneaking around the place. I don't know. It's interesting to me. Games like Dishonored, I really enjoyed Dishonored. Way too quick, and once I've beaten it, there's no reason to play it.
Yeah. There was
And
something
it's not
really.
fair that I say it's way too big because it's very intricate and there's lots of different ways of doing everything. There's a lot of freedom in how you do stuff. There's an interesting storyline. There's an interesting morality. Well, an interesting morality system. But that's it, though. You've done it. You've done it. BioShock Infinite. The story.
I never really got into. I got into Bioshock and then it died, and I tried again and it died, and I tried again and it died.
I enjoyed the first one. I got 98 of the way through it, and then I just got bored. I enjoyed the second one. I finished the second one. BioShock Infinite. I've got this immortal girl who's following me around, throwing ammunition at me, who apparently needs saving all the time, even though she can open rents in reality and something. This girl doesn't need me. Why am I here? Like,
Yeah, if the story doesn't make any sense whatsoever and isn't just off the wall crazy, it's
yeah.
like. Well, I had a moment like that many years ago with Call of Duty, I think it was, or yeah, it was Modern Warfare 3. I'm this super soldier going along, saving the world, come across something that's knee high, and it can't get over it. It's like, come on, just put a wall there or something to actually block me. I cannot stand my super soldier being unable to scale this wall.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Black Flag, Daz. But if I'm going to play Black Flag, one, there's Sea of Thieves, which is really fun for a few hours. Although we got very frustrated last time we played. Because there was, like, you feel very smart the first few riddles you solve and clues you solve, and then you get to one you can't solve and you drown. And, like, I don't have the information I need. And, like, we could go back and do it again. But
yeah. The setup for it was a good 45 minutes, and that was the problem with that particular. We go across the things, find the clues, go to the thing, go under the water, starts filling up.
Atlas is great for sailing in.
Yeah.
The boat mechanics are great. Building your own ship is fantastic. Grindy.
Oh, very grindy for the ships.
Well, grindy for everything. It's basically Ark with a less good taming mechanic and big oceans between all the lands that you have to sit there for.
Not my cup of rum. I like that. No, yeah. But Sea of Thieves is a very. You can get into it really quickly. You don't have to do the missions. You can just go off and have a bit of a laugh. I did that with my daughter. I don't know whether I've told everybody this, but I know we spoke about it. We got in it. We had half an hour, so we just got on a server, jumped in a ship, chased down a pirate ship, harpooned it to get really close. And Jessica was amazing. She ended up repairing the boat while I jumped on board, brought the chest back, but died. And then she had to defend the ship. And then we just raced away. Of course, I didn't realise. I think it was an ashen chest, but I didn't realise at the time. I've got no key for this. So, but it was fun. You know, it was really enjoyable, and there's a story from it.
That's the thing, though. Like, we had a good time in Sea of Thieves. It's a very well-made game. The sea is wonderful, although I tried playing it with my girlfriend and she got seasick and couldn't play it. Like, legit motion sickness.
It's that good. If you're close to the monitor, I felt giddy once. Sit a bit further back.
But the problem is it was designed to be an open world PvP game. The PvE content is there to teach you how to... I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
Like, none whatsoever.
It can be very frustrating. I mean, I'm all up for...
It's just not my cup of grog. Thank you, Des.
Well, I did. Who was I playing with? I can't remember. It might have been you. It might have been someone else. But I thought the mechanic of the game. I thought that when you're on one of the islands, one of the ports, that is safe.
Well, there's a big sign saying "Don't attack people in port."
And then I come back to my boat and it's half in the water and sinking. And and people are trolling you at port. And I thought that they would have just disabled all weapons whilst you're.
No, because they want that to happen. The game is built around that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in a co-op experience of having adventures and discovering things. And it's a great game for discovering things and having adventures.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
again, I'm kind of going against the basic design of the game. It'd be a bit like playing Viscera Cleanup Duty as a sightseeing game.
Yeah, it's not.
No, you could. But
that's an interesting point. Trying to make a game something it's not.
Here's a great example. Viscera Cleanup Duty. You and I have played this. I don't think we streamed it because it's quite gory. For those of you who don't know, Viscera Cleanup Duty is a 3D first-person janitor simulator where you have to go in after the Marines and the robots and the aliens have all murdered each other and destroyed the base, and you have to get it clean so that the next lot of scientists who are going in have no idea what's happened.
Yeah.
And there's a time that you can try and beat and all the rest of it, but it's effectively a physics-based janitor game. So there's a lot of Mikey being very efficient, bringing a whole bunch of buckets up the elevator, putting them back in the elevator when they're full of blood and gore, and then setting them down, and Jan trying to get in the elevator, and there's buckets of blood coming down the ceiling at him.
Physics glitch.
Physics glitch. And, a lot of times you'll, turn around and kick the bucket and put dirty water everywhere. It's a housework simulator.
But it's quite fun.
Is it fun? It's satisfying. It's engaging. It's often humorous. But that moment where you and I, we think we finished the level and the little detector's saying this thing, and you poke the ceiling and the gore just comes out the air vent, and we're just like, why would you have put a body up there? I hate all Marines. That's not fun, but it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a challenging balance. Yeah, I'm going to try to stop using the word fun and try and work out what it is that's engaging me.
Fun is fine for everyday conversation. I'm having fun. But for a game designer point of view, it doesn't help you. Daz makes a really interesting point about audio design. Audio really is an underrated skill.
Okay, so I mentioned Call of Duty Warzone, which is a game I've recently just had a go at because I didn't realize it was free to play. So I hadn't bothered trying it because I was like, I don't want to pay for it. I'm not interested. But then I realized it's free to play. I'll give it a go. 100 gigs later, first thing I notice is the audio design is all over the place. There's sort of music tracks when you open up boxes in the game. Suddenly there's this rock track playing. I'm like...
I'm like Skinner box thing.
Well, it's not like a loot box or anything like that. It's like you open it up and inside...
You open the box!
Yeah, and I'm like, nope. Which setting is that off? I mean, ultimately, I'm not in it for that type of experience. I'm in it to hopefully not get overwhelmed. And when I've got rock music playing in the background, I'm like, maybe not. But other things like when you're reloading, your character says, reloading! I'm like, not a very stealthy thing to do.
Behind the barrel!
I'm out of ammo! Oh, no. What?
You should shoot me next! I tell you what game has an amazing sound design is Red Dead Redemption 2.
I'm enjoying it. I've not played that much of it, but I'm trying to play enough that I don't lose track of the story. That's one of the things that has caught me out so many times with those big story games. The Last of Us. It happened to The Last of Us. I got about, 15 hours in, and I'm like, need to start again, otherwise I don't know my purpose if you leave it too long.
What I found very disappointing about Red Dead Redemption 2 was Red Dead Online.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the entire unlocked Red Dead Redemption 2 map, plus an extra area.
Ooh.
It's massive. And it's almost impossible to unlock or afford anything if you don't spend real money.
It begs the question.
Really not that much to do. There's less to do than when Grand Theft Auto Online first launched. So you can go in and do PvP events.
Well, it's slow to get around the map for a start.
I want to be with my friends and have adventures. That's what I want out of a game. Like I am going to be 45 soon. I really don't want to be dealing with a 12-year-old who's having a fantastic time shouting, "It's for the memes," while he trolls me for 10 hours. Like, that's not what the word meme means. What?
It's language is being rewritten all the time by the youngsters.
It just makes me feel like grumpy old fart. But it's interesting because the game, I really love the single player experience. And when I looked at would this be fun for us to play as multiplayer, and the answer is no. There's a handful of missions we could do together, and that's about it.
The other thing about that, that one in particular, is, as you were saying about the paying to win or paying to get ahead or whatever it happens to be, makes me wonder if something like WoW has the right model where you are paying a subscription. I'm using WoW as an example, but I'm sure there are others out there where everybody is on a level playing field. But you still, obviously with an online game, I would expect to have some sort of money input in order to just keep the servers running, if nothing else. It's far more complex beast than it used to be.
Yep.
And obviously, if everybody's got to pay, I don't know, £6 a month, that's not it's not going to be as lucrative, or probably not as many players would be there. Whereas, yep.
I wonder how a good old session of Worms would treat you. I played so many games of Worms in the 90s. Like, so many. I was that annoying guy who was really good with the ninja rope. Which is not a grappling hook or a bat rope at all. But I could easily get from one end of the map and around overhangs and back again and drop dynamite and get back in the timeline.
Is it on Good Old Games? We should definitely have a stream of us playing some old games.
But Worms has still been in production. Like they're releasing new versions all the time.
I played some of the later ones. There's something about that nostalgia, the simplicity of it. You know, it harks back to it's obviously based upon the Tanks game from days gone by. I mean, I really liked some of those old games. Again, they were very simplistic, very clear. Missile Command was one of my favourite old games.
There's nothing wrong with simple game design. Good game design is good game design. There's nothing wrong with complex game design if it's done well. It's just harder to do well.
Yeah, the more components there are in your system, the more likely it is that something is not going to work quite as you intended it to.
That's where you start getting things like the meta. Like, we played GTA 5 a few times last month, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things you notice is no one drives cars anymore.
Yeah.
Like standard cars. Because they've added in a bunch of other vehicles. Helicopters are cheap enough. Flying motorbikes are accessible. Submarine cars or flying cars are a thing. But actually just driving around in a car puts you at a massive disadvantage. And even if there's no one else on the server, it's just slower.
Yeah. And it's not like
Grand Theft Auto is a game that rewards you for not using autos.
Which is odd. And it's not like something that you can unlock for 30 minutes and then you have to grind to get it again. It's you've got a flying bike with homing rockets. Boom. That's it.
Killing with the finger in Worms was the penultimate offensive mood. It was the second best. The best is still holy hand grenade thrown from a swinging grapple.
I was never that skilled.
And it was also a really moddable game because I remember I was able to hook up my computer to my VHS player and rip a whole bunch of audio samples from Bill and Ted and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And I made Bill and Ted Worms sound pack. It was great.
That's awesome. And it doesn't live on because of a digital rot more than anything else. That's a shame. I can upload
it as well. Rights. But yeah. There was something about killing someone and your worms just saying, you might be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the reaper.
I don't know if Lemmings is the other one. Whenever anybody says words, Lemmings always pops into my head. That was a great game for its time.
It was a very good puzzle game. Deeply frustrating. Because I wanted to save all of them, and I felt like it should be possible.
You couldn't save the guy. Yeah, you have to sacrifice the I can't do it on camera. You know, the guy who blocks them going either way. It's just like, I know in
You're going
later iterations you could click him, but you had to watch. I think you had to watch which way his head was looking. Otherwise, you'd go, okay, you're free now. Ah, splat. No, that was a good game.
Yeah, fun in games I think is not useful, but
The blocker. That's most of the terms.
That's the bunny. I don't think it's helpful to think of there being one magic. This is what makes a game good. Like, I have no interest whatsoever in modern military shooters. I just don't. The last one I played was the Wolfenstein remake, and I was so bored. It was too short. It was too easy. I
very shiny.
Didn't care. Like being a Superman around superheroes, people that you're still better than everybody is like. Meh. And a lot of people love it. That's great. Like, I'm not saying the game is bad. The game is clearly a good game. Not my good game.
So I'm just having a quick look on my Steam library to see what I have played recently. I started on Far Cry 5. That was a very interesting game. There was a section of it that you're on rails.
Yep.
And it really frustrated me because I'm obviously sat defending the guy who's driving a pickup. And I got really annoyed that he was taking a really bizarre route that happened to have all of these enemies on it. I'm like...
Go a different way.
Yes, please.
Escort missions.
Escort missions can be fun, providing you've not got AI that's killing itself all the time.
When has an escort mission ever been fun? Give me an example.
Well, depends what you call fun. Sometimes frustration can be fun.
When has an escort mission ever made you not say, I don't want to do this?
when the person you're trying... When it's usually a tutorial part of a level or something along those lines where you've got to follow a character.
I cut my teeth on MMOs. They were a staple.
And you're like, please walk a bit quicker. Why are you walking in between my walk speed and my run speed? So I can't just...
Stop walking between me and the monster. Stay behind me.
Please. In fact, just go back in that house. I'll tell you when it's clear.
I mean, uniqueness is fun. Is that word I'm not supposed to use? But there's nothing wrong with a good iteration.
No, not at all.
And even, I mean, some of the most interesting original games, like Curse of the Necrodancer. You ever played that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, there's a game I'm bad at. Okay, it's a roguelike dungeon crawler. Rhythm game. The monsters all move to the beat. You get a bonus if you move to the beat. The monsters all have a certain dance pattern you have to learn.
I have seen it. I know the one you're talking about, yes. I've never played it, though.
When you, manage to outmaneuver an ogre, because you know his dance steps and you've planned it just right, and you're out dancing him and you kill him, you take his loot, you go to the shop and you buy the upgrade. Yeah, feels so good.
That is awesome. Now I've got a few games that I always go back to, and on the point of uniqueness, I think things can be built upon very successfully. And tropes are a very useful thing for a player to get. You know, whether it's a control system, and we've talked about control systems before. So if we've got WASD, you know, in the days of Doom, that didn't exist.
Yeah,
it's a relatively recent thing to have. But the same with if you play most first-person shooters, they all have maybe a pistol class, a submachine gun, a machine gun, a heavy weapon, and maybe grenades and things like that. And they all tend to be similar, and they put their own twist on them. And the same with cars. You may have a heavy one, a fast one, a light one.
video game grenades. Whereas apparently, I've never used one, grenades in the real world don't behave like that. They're quite small things, and it's the shrapnel. They don't throw people across the room. Because there's only so much chemical force you can put in something you want to carry around. But we're used to that trope, right? That's how it behaves.
Yeah, a classic one with that would be the shotgun. A shotgun in real life, you don't want to be anywhere near the end of it, up to 300-400 meters. Whereas in games, after about 20 meters, they make a splat on the wall. So, it's very unrealistic.
But I think that's more to do with game balance than it is to do with reality. Like, one of the things you want to be very careful of when you're designing a game is, or any kind of art form, is the idea that realism is the same thing as success.
Oh, that's big in the art community. A lot of people strive for realism, not realizing that they're going to improve a lot quicker doing basic stuff than trying to get something realistic.
That AAA is a genre.
I would argue that AAA just shows you've got the budget.
Right, but a AAA game can't look like Minecraft.
No, it wouldn't be a AAA game.
It can't look like a top-down pixel art game.
It's going to look.
It can't be an
realistic.
Experimental, very emotional storytelling game. Right? So we're expecting set pieces, we're expecting epic score, there's actually certain things we're expecting, because when you get to that kind of budget and you want to make that kind of money back, you've kind of locked yourself into the same tropes.
Very much so. You're almost, for want of a better, maybe not an interactive movie. For instance, The Last of Us, for instance, I'll go back to that game because that's one of the ones in recent memory that I've played that the graphics were. I played the remastered version on the PS4, and it was a beautiful game, especially for its time. Even now, it's a pretty good-looking game, and there's story there. Whether or not you like the story, that's neither here nor there. There's story there. There's decent game mechanics. There is a decent score. The music is so important in these games to drive the story forward, or to give you a little bit of affordance that you're about to get into a battle.
I tell you the one that I really enjoyed it briefly. And then when I played the next one of the series, I saw how it was made and I lost all interest. Those Telltale story games.
Oh, yeah. I played The Walking Dead. Of course I did.
So I played the original Wolf Among Us game, and I didn't know the comic series, so I kind of fell in love with that world.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started playing the Borderlands one, and I had no monkeys to give.
I enjoyed The Wolf Among Us. I thought that was a really, really good game. Even though it was false choice, and I understand that it's nearly impossible to create a game with multiple branches. They all lead back to one another. You just take a different route to get there. But the Walking Dead series was really compelling. There was something about it that made me care about the character, and because I cared about the character, I cared about seeing what happened and protecting them. And also making, at the time, what felt like difficult decisions because you were deciding who to get rid of.
It's the illusion of difficult choice.
Yes, it was good storytelling.
Because, there's 2 or 3 choices that feel really big, but you're actually going to come to the same place. So the first time you play it, you think, oh, wow, this is huge. If you try and play that thing again, you're like, wait, no, this is... What? And then you get to the Borderlands game or the next one, and it's weird. The moment I saw behind the smoke and mirrors, they're very good smoke and mirrors. There's nothing wrong with smoke and mirrors. The moment I saw behind them, I lost the interest.
Yeah.
It's something about if you tell people you have a lot of choice and they don't, and that's the selling point.
Hello, Deus Ex.
Deus Ex is a great example.
So can you remember I'm going back to the original Deus Ex here. So you're playing, you get off of Liberty Island, and then you get to a point where basically it's that point where you lose all your weapons. You get captured, basically, when you're back at your apartment.
Yep.
And I must have saved and reloaded that section 6 or 7 times before I realised that was just, there was nothing else you could do. You were going to be knocked out of that point and stuff taken away from you. And it wasn't clear that that was the course that you were going to be taken on. And I realised at the very end of that game, you make all of this choice of how your character behaves, but your actual decision on what ending you have happens in the final chapter, and it just goes, well, which of these 2 or 3 endings do you want? And the same was true of Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
The reboot made it actually worse at that.
When you're on the oil rig and you're like, oh, so see, I quick saved here and played that 5 minutes, and then I went back and played that 5 minutes, and then did the final 5 minutes.
Problem where you made all these huge choices and affected the world, and you could see the galaxy being affected. Like, just little things like, I've decided I'm going to go through everything in the space station, every store in the space station, and record my voice for a little extra cash. And then from then on, wherever you go, you just hear, I'm Commander Shepard, and I shop here, or whatever it is. And you just regret that choice. And then you get to it. It's like, okay, which of these 3 endings do you want? And I get why that had to happen, because you can't write a pre-scripted ending with that many variables.
You'd have to have a very systemic game that was capable of, and we're getting close to, there was a Tom Scott video, we might have talked about it last week, about the AI writing amazing stories. And with that combined with games, that if it could understand how to structure things.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
If you want it voiced over as well, it's a bit more tricky. Pakosh, I agree. Good lighting is welcome. Like, if you're going with a visual style, realism is a visual style too. Whatever visual style you're going for, you should commit to. You should have an idea what style you're going for. Do it well.
Yeah. And lighting doesn't have to be realistic. One of the most beautiful games that I've played in recent history is Firewatch, I think it's called. I think it's written in the Unity engine, but it's an absolutely beautiful game. The way that the light it's just dispersing amongst the trees that you're walking through, and the way that it changes. I think you happen upon a campsite where something happened, and it gets cold. You know, the whole lighting changes. It's very, very choreographed in the lighting, and that is really conveys or brings you into the world. You know, you go down into the caves, the lighting's different from the beautiful sunset that's going on.
Honestly, even good pixel art games are often well lit.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely.
Whatever style you pick, you should do well. You shouldn't, can I say, you shouldn't half-butt it. Can I say?
I was just going to say, yeah, I was just going to say.
Can I say half-assed? Okay.
Yeah.
You shouldn't half-ass it. You should always use your whole ass.
Yeah. Wait, what? Now, if you've picked a particular style...
I'm sorry, my old eyes are going. Yes.
If you've picked a particular style, or you're going for a certain mechanic, sticking to it and doubling down on it is better in many ways than making something generic. Because if you start making things generic, your game doesn't stand out as much as it would if you'd stuck with the difficult choice.
There's a quote by, I want to say Sid Meier's. I think it's Sid Meier's. We're saying when you're making a game, find out what idea, and he used the word fun. What's fun in that idea? So let's say making a city.
Yeah.
Get rid of everything else and just do that. Like, just expand on that and make that what the player does. So if it's something like Assassin's Creed should have been called Parkour.
Parkour Murder Simulator.
If you look at it from a parkour point of view, it's a lot of fun. If you look at it from a stealth game, it's not a stealth game.
Oh, no.
Like, you can be, but why?
Stealth games, I still go back to the original Thief and Thief 2. They were phenomenal games in terms of their stealth. They were pretty stupid. You end up with a guard, up here going, I can't see anything. I'm like, well, I can see you. Would you mind backing up a little?
Yeah.
But that's where you making a sound or getting caught changed the entire dynamic of the game. And you were vulnerable. Garrett, I
You
think.
also understood when you were visible, and things would make sense. Like,
Yes.
you had the little light meter, but you knew that's dark, that's bright, that's safer for me.
Yeah, and sound.
And
Sound was really important in that game. If you stood on a metal floor, you were going to be heard. If you were on carpet or wood, it's softer.
I played the Thief remake. I didn't finish it. I got about 80% of the way through. I really enjoyed it, but I found the thing to do with that game was to turn off thief vision, or whatever they called it, where you could see all the little traps and things. Because when you actually had to pay attention, I mean, you break into a shop and you see a little pressure pad and you disable it and you feel really smart. You break into a shop, you drop onto a pressure pad you didn't see and get shot in the head. You feel so stupid, but it's fair, right? I should have paid more attention.
Yeah. You're not being shown the world around you. It goes back to, for me, the days of Oblivion, where your mission would be on the whatever, a compass at the top of the screen, and it wouldn't just be at the top of the screen. You could go right to the chest of drawers within the house that you had to pick up the book from, and it would be, you could use that to get there. And I was like, okay, taking me to the district would have been okay, and then the challenge of finding the house. Yeah. Okay, take me to the house, but don't take me to the bookcase. There's no challenge in that.
A lot of games do that, and Game Maker Studio has a really good video about this, where that kind of waypoint system, like, it makes sense. You want your player to feel like they're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't read mission text anymore in games. I just go to the waypoint.
Yeah.
It's just, why am I reading this? One of the things I don't like about a lot of the missions in GTA Online is...
See you later, Daz.
See you, Daz. They make you listen to the same text every time. It's just like, just give me the waypoint. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I'm not good at reading instructions.
I want to see a game that uses the same kind of crime mechanics as something like Thief and is more systemic. Like a lot of system-based stuff in there. So decisions that I make, ways the NPCs react, all the rest of it, triggering effects that would make the world change. You know, a game that was really interesting for that was Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2.
It keeps coming up for sale on my Steam, and I'm resisting it each time.
Really interesting. And there's a multiplayer that I played for like 10 minutes with my friend Sam that was very interesting. Because you can actually play the thing and go off in your own direction and come back and do missions and do your own missions.
Oh, nice.
Kill mission givers, and then the ghost of the mission giver gives the person the reward. But there's a lot of systems-based stuff in there. So if you want to, you can drag a big barrel of oil around the place with you.
Right.
And if you're strong enough, you can throw it somewhere.
Oil and fire, I take it, are a good mix.
Any kind of fireball and any kind of candle will just make it ignite. Water and fire, smoke, you could just... So what it means is, if you want to go find the key and pick the lock and all the rest of it, you can do. Or go to the door, blow it up, get the thing, and run before the guards come. Right? It's not scripted that way. It's just what's going to happen.
That's an ingenious way of being able to complete a mission in the way that you want. Red Faction. I remember when that came out years and years ago. It was that game where you could destroy the entire world.
Yep.
But there were certain doors that you had to get the key for, and those doors were indestructible. You could destroy everything around the room, but not the room.
Little block, yeah.
Everything around the room, but not the room.
Tear Down. You ever played Tear Down? Came out a few months back.
I watched its development, and I think it looks amazing. I still haven't bought it. It's 25% off on Steam.
Really cool game, and there's one level where there's a hidden vault that I found.
I bet you felt proud.
Bar of gold in there. Well, no, because you can't break the thing. I tried everything. I put huge barrels of explosive in there, and then threw dynamite down and ran for it, and it blew up the entire building except for that. Turns out there's an air vent hidden that you have to crawl up.
So that was a Wile E. Coyote moment.
Yeah.
Boom, and it's just like a huge crater with an apple core in the middle.
Yep.
Ah, classic. Yeah, Teardown looks absolutely fantastic. The way that they've used the voxel engine and physics as well, going back to
It's
systemic.
not the game I thought it was. Like, it was sold to me, or I went to buy it for a demolition game. You have to, you're a demolition contractor. You have to go break down buildings. I didn't realize it was a crime game. That's really cool.
It's an interesting mechanic though that you until you actually go for your first objective, you can just do what you want
On
to the
some
level.
missions, they actually changed that in other missions.
Oh, I've seen that they've expanded it quite a bit since it's come out.
I haven't played the expansion stuff. There was one level where the safes all have water sensors on them, and you have to dump the safes in the water. But the moment the one safe gets wet, like you can't just leave it in the rain. You have to dump it into the water. The moment one safe gets wet, the rain sensor's going to go off, and the cop's going to come 60 seconds later. So you have to figure out how to get all of the safes out of the house and into the water that's all the way over there and then out within 60 seconds.
Nice. Put them inside a giant net and lower them in and pull them out again.
Well, they're very, very heavy.
A big, heavy wire net?
Where you could, for instance, attach bits of wood to a vehicle and make a little canopy for them and try and get them in the vehicle. There's all kinds of ways.
Oh, that's lovely. No, I've looked at several games at the moment. I'm doing what I'm trying not to buy more games that I'll never play on Steam.
Mm.
I mean, on one level, I like supporting the developers, especially of things like Teardown. You know, they put an awful lot of effort into a game, and it's fantastic, and I've got a lot of value out of just watching other people play. But actually, and it may not be a game I actually enjoy, but it's also worth I think it's on sale for maybe 15 quid at the moment. That's like, I'm happy to take a punt at 15 quid. If it was 50 quid, I'd be like, nope.
Yep.
You'll be lucky to find me getting any game at that price, I'm afraid. I'm a stingy person.
I've noticed we're coming up to the hour. We should probably do the questions thing.
Yeah. So, we've been talking about how and why we find games fun or enjoyable or engaging. And if you guys have any questions for us, we are hopefully, as we're wrapping up, we're hopefully going to get Erin on next week.
Very nice.
He's excited about coming on. Erin, if you don't know, has written the procedural generation part of the new Blender course. I'm currently uploading all of his videos. So that will be coming out soon for the early backers to have a look through. When I say early backers, I don't mean early backers, I mean the lifetime members. Yeah. So the lifetime members will have access to that. It'll be interesting to go through.
To be honest.
Yeah, and Paul is working on the grease pencil section, and we'll have him on when that's all been put together. He's doing really well with that. It's about a third complete at the moment.
I don't have a special guest, but you have seen Caboodle a few times.
Ta-da!
Yeah. So,
I could answer that question. I daren't answer that question, but I will. But I can't.
I filter you by unplayed.
Well, it's not that. I've hidden some games. So last year I went through a cull, and I just cut off any of the games that I know I'm not interested in, or ones that I played before. I didn't realize you could hide them. So this isn't my entire library, but I would say I'm close to 300 at least. Now, some of that's not just I've gone out and gone, I'm going to buy that and never play it. Some of that would have been from maybe a Humble Bundle, or it would have been from something else that gave you multiple games in one. I'm going to say bundle again. It probably wasn't Humble Bundle all the time. And for a time, I was subscribed to Humble Bundle as well, so I was getting 10 games a month. And
I just games I've got like
add them if they're interesting.
An hour in, but I think there's only one or two games I have that like were given to me as a code that I never played.
Yeah, I've had some gifts as well. Again, unfortunately, that I've never played. Um,
I think that there's things like Serial Cleaner, which I got for £2, so I'm not going to refund it. I played it for 20 minutes and we're like, yep, no, this is not what I thought it was. Not playing this.
okay, so the and I had Kerbal Space Program before it came out on Steam, I think. Anyway, but Kerbal Space Program is my most played game at 173 hours. Then I've got Factorio at 164. Then I've got PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, or PUBG, at 100, and Project Zomboid at 95. So I seem the games that I do enjoy, and I haven't played Kerbal in a couple of years actually. But there are certain games I definitely enjoy more than others, and I've come back to again and again. And some of them have been updated quite significantly. So Factorio's changed a lot. So when you start a new mission now or start a new game, it's like playing a new game. There are further things to discover, and Project Zomboid has been like that as well. And PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, I just used to play that every evening after finishing work. I would just load up that, and off I went. So that's where those hours came from.
Yep.
That was a very interesting game. That was a lot of my play style. I'd try and drop somewhere nice and quiet, and then I could loot, and hopefully there wouldn't be anybody around. Hopefully I'd get some decent loot, and then I would go into battle. I would never drop in high risk areas. The problem, of course, with not dropping in a high risk area is you spend the first 20 minutes of the game running around picking stuff up and then getting shot. It's like, yeah, I really.
See how that Battle Royale mode, and I'm calling it Battle Royale because it's based on the movie Battle Royale.
Oh, that's definitely what it's called.
Because I remember Ark had a mode called, it wasn't Survivor Evolved, they had another mode.
Hey, Jelly.
Hey, Jelly, which was what was it called? Survival of the Fittest. It was a Battle Royale game. And you get dropped into a thing and it shrinks and there's little stuff and glowies and
yeah.
No one played it. No one cared. It was like a year too early. And then all of a sudden, Fortnite, which is a zombie defense game, is losing money and opens a Battle Royale mode and boom.
Yeah, PUBG was around the same time. I think it was a choice at the time. Do you play Fortnite or PUBG? And then
no, I don't.
Everyone else copied the format, essentially. And they've all got their own different spins on it. There's even a Counter-Strike, I can't remember, something zone, danger zone, I can't remember what it's. I've got Danger Mouse in the head now.
You get, like, flavor of the month genres. I mean, I remember when the original Doom 3D came out in 94, somewhere around there, suddenly everything was a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Like, everything. It's just, this is the future of gaming. It's the future of gaming. Oh, look, a new future of gaming. So I'm not too worried about that. It was zombies and everything for a while. Just everything.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm not quite sure whether it's a zombie theme that I enjoy about those games. Because I've tried to get into other games, like I've got X4, I think it's called X4. It's a space simulation game, and I've got, what's the other one? Elite Dangerous. Because I really love space stuff.
I love Elite Dangerous until my HOTAS control system, my HOTAS control system broke.
Yeah, I've tried playing it with
stick, and you have 16 controls here and 10 controls here and more on the hand. And the ship is just controllable that way. It's fantastic. And then the stick breaks. It's like, I'm not learning how to do this on a keyboard. I'm just not.
Yeah, I've read. I can't remember. Free Space. I love Free Space 2. I thought that was an absolutely brilliant game. And I really enjoyed. it was like a spiritual successor to that. Free Space, I think it was called. That had a very unique control system because you could actually control the ship really well using the mouse.
Mhm.
And at the time, I think my joystick had broken, so it was quite refreshing to be able to play a space postal service game, which is essentially what those games are.
Jelly just compared Elite Dangerous to Euro Truck in Space, and they said it's not a bad thing. No, I loved it. I would put on an audio book and just do trade routes.
Mm.
And just very, very skillfully land at the dock without having to do any of the. Yeah, it felt good. Running around in a big, giant truck ship with no shields, just to maximize profits.
Well, I think Kerbal was like that for me because a lot of the missions, once you've spent this real good focus time building up your rocket and sending it off into space, you then, like real space, have to wait a while for your ship to get into the certain point. So if you're going to the moon, right, and I would do it in real time where possible, rather than just fast forwarding all the time.
Yep.
And I remember a great moment where I think it was right at the beginning of a game that I was playing. I launched a rocket, and one of your missions is to get into orbit. So I got into orbit. I then fired my rocket in reverse, so I was coming back down, and I ran out of fuel like a kilometre away from the atmosphere, so my Kerbal was stuck in space. So I sent up a rescue mission that rendezvoused on the dark side of the planet. So it was complete darkness, and I could not see what I was doing. And after all the manoeuvring that I had to do to get there, brilliant. I've now got two Kerbals on. I turn the ship around, reverse. Nope. Still stuck in space. We're going to need more Kerbals.
Is this part of your plan to solve the Kerbal overpopulation problem on planet Kerbal?
No, it's funny you should mention that. The third time was a success. I did manage to bring them back down, and they all burnt up in the atmosphere.
That's an interesting use of the word success there that I'm not familiar with.
Well, I managed to deorbit. What I didn't manage to do was preserve it.
Down with a railgun. Anyway, we are now at that time. We're now at that time, and I need the restroom. So,
no worries.
Folks, thank you very much for joining us. Mikey, thank you very much for joining me.
You're more than welcome. And we will see you all next week. Bye! I missed the button.
Press the button. Press it!